Good morning, everyone. What we have seen in last lecture, that is all about the inheritance, right? What are the different types of inheritance? Single, multiple, hierarchical, multi-level, and hybrid. We have seen the hierarchies, right? How we can write a derived class, the syntax of it, class, then your derived class name, colon, then visibility mode, and then your base class name. Then how they are actually deriving all the data, right? That what we have discussed. What is the access control and how that data would be inherited, right? Those data would be inherited. We can derive it via private, public, and the protected one. Now, if there would be a public inheritance, then all the members which are there as the public one, they'll become the public in your derived class, right? And whatsoever the members which are the protected one, they will become the protected, right? The public will be public and protected will be protected, but private will never be accessible, right? If inheritance, I mean, we are deriving via protected mode, then what will happen? Your public and protected members becomes protected in your derived class and private as usual not accessible. If it is a private inheritance, then your public and protected members becomes the private members of the derived class. So what will happen? You can directly not accessible. I mean, you cannot directly access that data from integer main or from outside of the class. So for each and every data, you need some functions. Okay, for each and every data, you need some functions like get A, show A, get B, show B. So via this way, at least you can have that data, right? If it is the public, sorry, if it is a private one, if you are deriving it as a private, functions will become private also, right? Functions even will become private, and private functions you cannot call. So now what is the option with you? How you can call those functions? What is the option? I'm again repeating my question. If I'm deriving everything privately, right? With this private mode, if I'm deriving my child class, or you can say derived class, all the members of the base class, whether it was a public or the protected one, they will become private in my derived class. So now if I want to access from integer main, right? So how I can access it? Because even private functions are not accessible, just like your private data, right? Because everything become private. Whatsoever was there as a public or protected, they are now become private. So how I can access it from integer main? What is the option? We can access through the member function of the derived class. Yes, Rahul, correct. Correct. Yes, Tanzil, whether we are using that get and show, then also they will become the private. So I cannot even call that get a or show a method. That function I even cannot call, right? That was the question. So Rahul has said very correctly that you can access that through the member function of the derived class, right? So derived class, one function can call another function, right? So actually from the derived class, you are calling your base classes function. If you are deriving it privately, then and only then. Okay. But it was a good try, Tanzil. At least you are replying. I appreciate. Okay. So what we are doing over here is, here we have seen that how this x, y, and z will be there in your derived class, right? If it is the public one, it will remain as it is, you can say. If it is a public, it will be public. If it is the protected, it will become protected, and z not accessible. Same way, if I'm doing over here the protected, this x and y both will become protected. If I am deriving it privately, then x and y both will become private, right? And they are not accessible. So via my derived class functions and all, I can use that. I can access that, right? And what can't be derived? What can't be derived in my derived class from the base class? That is my question. Quickly write down. Yes, the constructor, overloading operator functions, right? Destructors, right? Or any friend function. This cannot be there in my derived class. This cannot be inherited, right? Constructors, destructors, operator overloading functions, and any of your normal friend functions. Yes, correct, right? Ritesh, Anjali, good, fine. Then why we are using the inheritance, that what we have seen, right? We have seen if it is by public and if it is by private, right? And now the next topic is making private member inheritable. Now what will happen if you are making everything as a private? What will happen? Even your child cannot access that thing. This is the main problem. You are behaving very similar to just like your outsiders, the same way you are treating your derived class, your child. So what will be the difference, right? It is something like that. Say suppose what I'm saying ki you cannot use my things, right? So I'm saying this to normal public, and I'm saying this to my child. Both will be same because you are making it as a private, and you cannot make it as a public. If you will make it as a public, then everybody can use it, right? So I am having a middle option, that is protected one. What is the main thing in this protected one? So outsider cannot use your data, but at least your child can use your data directly, right? So that what I want. I want such kind of mode where outsiders, public cannot use my data, but at least my child can directly use the data. Otherwise, what will happen every time? Say, suppose you are having three private variables A, B, and C. You have to provide six functions: get A, show A; get B, show B; get C, show C. Such kind of functions that you have to give them. If it is provided, then and only then your child can even use your data. So you are treating just like the outsider. So that is why there is one protected mode. So via this mode, at least your child can use your data directly, but no outsider public can use your data. So this is what that I want, right? Fine. So your private data members are not inheritable. So to make the private variables accessible in the derived class, we have to modify its visibility level and just make it protected instead of private. Right. So a member declared protected is accessible by the member functions within its class and any class immediately derived from it. Getting this thing immediately derived from it, that is very important. Why? Because say if you are having a multi-level hierarchy, right? So it would be, I mean, a long hierarchy from A, B, from B, C, from C, it would be D, E, F, and you can imagine. But if A is saying this data is the protected one, right? So its immediate child can use it, right? Immediate child is what? B, right? From A, I'm having my another class that is B. So B can use it. So that is why here the word immediately derived is very important, right? So it cannot be accessed by the functions outside of this two classes. Means A can access that data, of course, because that private data even it would be accessible within the class. So that is fine. A can use the data, even B can use the data because B is the child of class A, right? So only these two classes can use that data. No any other outsiders will use this data. Okay. So say suppose we'll see what is the visibility of the members. If I'm making it protected over here, right? I'm having one class that is alpha, right? In that I'm having some data which is private, protected, and the public. This would be visible to member functions within its class. That all we know, right? From the fourth unit, we know that if we are making the data as the private one, then only within a class it would be accessible, not from the integer main. Right? Then the protected one, visible to the member functions of its own and the derived class. So A and B both can use it. And the public that would be visible to all the functions in the program, right? Now, various functions that can have access to the private and protected members of the class. Now, who can access your private and protected member of the class? So for that, we will see directly first the figure and then we'll come back for this slide. Okay. Say suppose there is one class that is Y. Okay. And class X is friend of class Y. Right. We have seen such kind of uh, the same things in our unit 4 also, right? That one class can be friend of another class, right? Or there would be a friend function which is actually from your class Y, but you are using an X, or the vice versa, right? We have seen such kind of functions. So here the same thing is there. Here this class X is nothing but friend class of Y. So who can use your private data? That is the question right now. So here, if this is your friend function y1, right, and this is your friend function y2, they can even use your private data. So via the object, fine, via object dot something. But via that way, even they are using your private data. That is why you are making it as a friend, no? Right? Because private data was not accessible outside of my class. That was the limitation. But what if my friend wants to use my data? So there is one concept of the friend function. That what we have learned already, right? So in that way, this another class's friend function can use your private and protected data. That is but obvious. If they are able to access your private data, then of course they can even use your protected data, right? Now say suppose there is one outsider function that is not part of any class, right? Just like what we have discussed the example of income tax, if you remember. I'll make one function of income tax which will be used by even scientists, which can be used by any of the employee because it will remain same for all now in the whole over India. So in that way, I will make one function which is not part of any of the class, but that function is friend of X, right? That function is friend of X. So this function can even use your private and the protected data, right? So this and this too. And the third one, if this is your derived class, right? If it is your derived class fz, fz2, these are the functions. And via your member function, you can access your any of the functions, right? And only the protected data, but not the private one, right? But the third one, who can access your private, that is that class's member function itself. Say suppose this two are the function of my class X only, fx1, fx2. So member function of the same class, they can use the private variables directly, no? That what we have seen. So only the three possibilities who can access your private data. Who can access your private data? First, member function of your class itself, that we already know. Fine. Second thing, if I've said that the class Y is my friend, okay, so class Y's friend functions can use my private and protected members, right? My variables. And the third one, outsider, any friend function which is now friend of mine, so they can use my private and protected one, right? But class Z, which is the derived one, they can only access the protected, not the private one, right? So this is what the scenario. I hope you are getting the things. Who can access it? Yes, getting the things, so I can check my connection
Yes.
even. Okay. Fine, fine, fine. Okay, so the same thing or that is written over here. So various functions that can have access to the private and protected members. So first, member function, we'll start from here. A function that is friend of the class. Okay, friend of the class means what the example that we have seen, right? Uh, your friend function is a part of another class, right? Then a normal member function of a class, that is friend of your class, right? And the third one, that is member function of a derived class. Now you will say member function of a derived class is not directly accessing your private data, they are directly accessing your protected data, right? But via their derived classes member function, right, they are somehow using those functions which are there in the private one. Okay, so in indirect way somehow they are accessing, and directly they are accessing the protected members, right? Fine. So ultimately these three things are there who are accessing your private and protected members. Now, while the friend functions and the member function of a friend class can have direct access to both the private and protected data, that what we have discussed. And the member function of a derived class can directly access only protected data, not the private one. Okay. But indirect way, they are somehow accessing with some limitations that we all know. Now, what is the visibility in my derived class? So, say suppose this is the base class visibility, right? I am having some private members, I'm having some protected members, and I'm having the public members. Now, the derived class, and I'm saying that it is publicly derived. If it is publicly derived in private, say suppose in base class, some members are the private ones. So they are not accessible whether it is public, private, or protected. So we will not discuss this again, right? Not inherited, not inherited, not inherited. Now we'll discuss about this protected and public. If you have derived publicly, your protected members will become protected in your derived class. Your public member becomes public in your derived class, right? If it is privately derived, all this protected and public will become the private one, fine. And if it is derived protectically, right, so this both the members, protected and the public, they will become protected in your derived class. This is what we have already discussed, right? This is just a kind of revision. I hope it is very clear now. Fine. Okay.
Clear.
Fine. Yes, fine. Good. So visibility of inherited members, right? again they will be having a different figures, but ultimately Ramayana is that how we are accessing our base classes data into derived class. That's it. Otherwise we are not doing anything, I mean, extraordinary, that operator overloading and something that we need to do over here. Simple, very simple. You are taking one kind of private, one kind of protected, one kind of the public data member, and you are accessing how you will access that data. That's it. You are simply taking the data, you are printing the data. That's it. So get and show kind of functions you are using in inheritance. Fine. So the programs would be lengthy, but it would be so easy. Okay. So here again they've shown some figure that class B, right? That is your base class. Okay. It would be having private, protected, public. Private members not inheritable, not inheritable, right? So here they are saying that if it is publicly derived, here it is written that class D1 public B. So what will happen? Your protected member become protected, public member become public. That we know. Secondly, if it is privately derived, all your public and your protected both will be there inside this private only. Have you seen this? Both are into this private, right? Now, if what I've written over here, class X, right, colon public D1 colon protected D2 means what? This is your multiple hierarchy where you are having more than one parent, right? So here you are having two parents, D1 and D2. These are the two parents, right? So here one parent, that is D1, you are writing that will be publicly derived, right? And the another one that will be derived as the protected one, right? Here there would be a comma, but fine, we will short it out. This figure I have directly taken from the reference book, but though there would be mistakes, right? And here it would be protected D2, right? So this is your class D2, and you are deriving it protected way in that mode. So what will happen ultimately if it is public? Then again the same thing will be repeated. Protected will become protected, public become public, right? If it is a public one, it will remain same. It is not like that your whole data will become public. No, it is not like that. And if this is your the protected one, all your protected and public both will become the protected one, right? So in that way they've shown you multiple hierarchies even how you can access it. Okay, fine. Access mechanism in the classes, what you can see in this figure, anyone can explain? Yes, anyone who can explain this, or I'll explain. Fine, I'm explaining. They are showing just a different visibility to the different one. Say suppose here they are talking about their own classes, right? So if it is class A, so class A will have its own member functions and their friendly functions, right? So they can access all your private, protected and public members within the class. So that all we know, right? A same class can use its own private, public, and the protected members in their own classes, right? And if even it is a friend function, so they also can use private, protected, and public, right? If it is all users, outsiders, so they can only access this public one, if you can see, right? They can only use public if it is outsider. If it is your derived class, means your child, right? If it is a derived class member function, so they can only access protected and the public one, no private. So simple it was. Fine. Next is multi-level inheritance. Okay. So in multi-level inheritance, you all know that there would be multiple levels, means grandfather, then father, then child, something like this. So here this is your base class. Here they've used that word intermediate base class, right? Because for the C class, this is your base class, right? No? Okay. Okay, fine. So here your class A that will serve as a base class for the derived class B. Okay. Class A that will serve as a base class for your derived class B, which is in turn serve as a base class for the derived class C, right? For the C, he is your father, right? So the parent is B, but B is also having a parent that is A. So we know this. The class B is known as intermediate base class since it provides a link for inheritance between A to C, right? So here, grandchild relationship will be from grandfather to child, A to C, right? So the chain ABC that is known as inheritance path, right? Very simple things will be over here in inheritance, not like your operator overloading. Okay. Again, a derived class with multi-level inheritance is declared like this. There would be your class A, right? This is your base class. Now the B that is derived from the class A. So how you are writing class B colon and how you want to derive that. So you are saying that publicly. So public A, right? Because A is your base class. Fine. So B derived from A. But here you have to check at least twice, right? That what you are writing, because C is deriving from B. So here you have to write B, not A, right? Otherwise it would be hierarchical. One parent, many child, right? So class C publicly derived from B. So it will make a chain. Now again you can write the class D, then you are writing public and over here C. So this way you can create multi levels. This process can be extended to any number of levels. That is up to you. Now this is your program of multi-level. Though it would be lengthy, but we are not doing something extraordinary. Fine, it would be so easy. Okay, so don't worry. We'll open this program. Fine. So what we are doing over here is, in this program, I'm having one class student, right? Student class would be having their information like roll number. Fine. Now I'm conducting his test. Okay. So for the examination, I'm having another class that is known as test. In that, I am saying these are the two subjects, and these two subjects are this. Okay. And we will be having the marks over here. Okay, subject 1 plus subject 2, you can add over here 5, and then after this subjects total, right, I'll be having one another class which is known as your result, where I'm simply doing total, nothing else, right? You are just preparing results by adding those two subjects numbers. I mean, whatsoever the marks will be there, you are just adding it. So in that way, you have created multi-level hierarchy. I hope you are getting the thing. This is your one class, class student. This is your another class, that is test. This is your another class, which is result. And finally, you are having your integer main. This is what the hierarchy is. Fine. Here I'm having class student. In this protected, see, here I'll not take the private one. Why? Because if I'll take the private one, then my child cannot access that data. Then why I'm making it? So instead of now we are using private, instead of that we are using protected. Okay. So here I've taken protected R number, that is for integer roll number. Simple. For that I am having get number, put number. Okay. This is what two methods I'm taking over here. What I'll do in get number? Simple, whatsoever provided from integer main, that will be set over here in my roll number, right? So whatever over here, that will be your roll number. So our number is equals to a, fine. And into this put number, you are simply displaying the things, right? Only two things you need to know: get and set, something like this, right? Get and display, get and put, right? Now the second, your class is class test, which is the derived class for your base class student, fine, because you are deriving from student and publicly. So you are writing public. Here again, two protected variables, that is subject 1 and subject 2, fine. So here you are having again two methods, which is get marks and put marks. Whatsoever the marks will be there, because I'm having two subjects, so there would be two argument, right? I'll set those marks, I'll put the marks, right? I hope you are getting these things, right? Then I'm having class result, which is there from the test, not from the student. Huh? Then only it will create multi-level hierarchy. Now I'm having float total. Okay, and there is one method void display. Float total, I know what I'll do is subject 1 plus subject two's marks, right? And in display method, what I'm doing is total is equals to subject 1 plus subject 2. Now I'm putting over here put number, put marks, and now the total is equals to this. Fine. So this put number is a function of which class? Student class, means grandfather's method, right? Put marks is what? My parents method. Here that is from the test class. And this is what I did just now, that is my total. Okay. Now what you are doing from integer main, I always say that you have to create object of a richer class. Who is the richer one right now? Your last hierarchy. I mean, if you are having hierarchy A, B, C, and D, so you are creating the object of D, because D is having its own data plus it is having the data of C, B, and A, right? So you are always creating object of your very lastly written class, that you have to remember. So your class is result, right? So here you are creating result and the object name, right? I have taken some meaningful name, that is student one. Otherwise, you can even take result R. So that is your object, right? But some meaningful name I have taken, that is, I am taking this for student one. So student one dot get number, and I'm passing the numbers, right? Because get wali method I need to call from integer, right? And this display, I'll simply call one function display. But in display only I'm calling put number, put marks, and everything. So I just need to call one function, and that function will call another function. This is again your nesting of your functions, right? So the concept we have already seen. So here I'm passing roll number, that is 001. It is having your subject mark, subject 175, subject 2, something like this. And now I'm saying the student 1 dot display. What will happen? It will directly call this display. It will add this subject 1 plus subject 2. They can directly access the subject 1 and subject 2. Why? Because it's parent class, no? So parent class protected data they can directly use, right? Subject 1, subject 2, they can directly use, right? And here that will be displayed. If there is no query in this multi-level inheritance, so roll number, that is 1, Marks in subject 1, 75. Marks in subject 2, 59.5, and total that would be this. Simple. Because they are calling the display, that put number method. So in put number you have written roll number this, so that will be printed. Then your marks in subject 1, that will be printed. Marks in subject 2, that will be printed. And finally total, that what you have written, so that will be printed. No query in this, so we can move further. Everyone, is it clear for you guys? Fine. Okay, great. So this was that program, right? That what I have written into this slide for your reference. Okay. Now the next is multiple inheritance. In multiple inheritance, a class can inherit attributes of two or more classes. This is known as multiple inheritance. Here I would be having base class 1, base 2 and till base n. You can inherit via any number of the classes, and there would be only one child but many parents. Okay. So the multiple inheritance allows us to combine the features of several existing classes as a starting point for defining a new class. It is a child, it is like a child inheriting physical features of one parent and intelligence of the another. Right? It is something like that. You are having all the traits of, all the features of your mom and dad. Right? So you are getting everything from your parent, like from mom and dad, both. Right? So that is nothing but a multiple inheritance. Right? So the syntax of derived class with the multiple base classes is something like this. Say suppose this is your derived class D, then colon, then visibility for base class 1, comma, visibility for the base class 2, comma, so and so, right? So the base classes are separated by the commas, okay? So you have to write like this, class P colon. Say suppose your class P is your derived class, which is there from your class M and N. So M and N nothing but they are parents, and the P is the child. Okay, so how you can write it? Class P colon public M comma public N comma whatsoever number of classes you can join like this. And here you can write anything in your class P. Okay, this is how you can do this. Getting this thing or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Multiple. So we'll directly see the program because theory is only this much. Okay. So again we are having one program related to multiple. Okay. Here I'm having one class, that is class M, that is one parent. Okay, this is your one parent. In that you are having protected data integer M. Fine. Simply what I'm doing, void get M. Right? Simply void get M. And I would be having the data. Same way class N. In protected I'm having integer N. One method void get N. So whatsoever I'll give from integer main, that will be there over here. Now I'm having one child class P, publicly deriving M and publicly deriving N, separated by the comma. Okay. Now I'm having void display method in my child class, because here I have not provided put M and put N, something like that. I'll directly do that display task from my child class. Okay. So here I'm having this void M getM method, because I remain with the definitions of this, no, class declared the method. So I'm just giving the definition of this method, like void m, getM integer x. So what I'll do, m is equals to x, right? Same way, the n is equals to y. This is what I'm doing. Simply setting my variables. That's it. Now I am having a display method. Okay. Display method is having what? M is equals to this data, n is equals to this data, and I am doing multiplication from my side in class P, that m into n is this, right? Because I am getting this data for some meaningful things, no? So I'll simply multiply it. So features of mom and dad will be there in me. That's what I'm saying. So m into n. Now in integer main, always you are creating object of your child class, right? Which will be there at the last, right? So I'm having my class P as my child class. I'll create the object of it. And what I'm saying is object dot get m n. So I'm setting the data of m, that is 10, data of n, that is 20. And now I'll simply do object dot display, right? So it will print what is m, what is n, and what is m into n. Because I'm getting this data in my class from where? From both the parents m and n, right? I hope that thing is clear to you guys. So it will simply print what is m, what is n, what is m into n equals to 200. Fine. This is what the same program I've written over here. Now there would be a problem, ambiguity resolution in inheritance. You can see this case over here. Occasionally, we may face a problem in using the multiple inheritance when a function with the same name appears in more than one base classes. So you can consider one example. Here I'm having class M. I'm having the function name that is void display. I'll do simply see out something. Class N. Again void display. Okay. And I'm having this class. Now I'm creating the object of which class? P. I have created P obj. And now I'm writing object dot display. So now there is a problem that which classes display method will be called, because M is having the same name, N is having the same name, that both the methods are there into the class P. Now which display you want to display? Getting the question first, then we will be having a solution. First you need to understand the problem. What is the problem we are having?
Yes, sir.
Right? Okay. Yes. Okay, fine. So for it also we will be have a program. So here the same program I'm having, right? What I've written, void display, class N, void display. In the class P, I can even keep it blank, no? Right? Because whatsoever I'm having, that is from my parents, M and N, that's it. I don't want to add anything, right? This is a loser child. They don't want to write anything by themselves. Okay. So in integer main, whenever I'm creating the object, P object, object dot display. This is what simply I'm writing, right? But if I want to be more specific, right? If I want to be more specific that I want display function of the class M. So what I need to write in object dot display, you just need to simply add class name and scope resolution operator. Okay, simply what I need to do, you are simply writing object dot display. Instead of that, you are writing over here m and scope resolution operator. So it will define that you want this display method from class m. And here I'm again specifying that I want the display method of n. Okay. But here what this line is saying, whose method will be called, whose function will be called. Any guesses? Anyone? No one? So I already said that whenever the compiler will get confused that whose method I need to call, they will simply raise an error. So here this is nothing but this is the error that you are not clear that which method need to call. See, error request for member display is ambiguous, right? Candidate N is having display, candidate M is having this display, N and M both are having the same function. Compiler is getting confused and they are saying this statement is the ambiguous one. If I'll simply comment it, then this program will run. Okay, so here is class M, here is class N. Or even you can do what? Here you can have another display method. You will be having another display function, and here you are calling the display function of M, say suppose, right? And you are calling the display function of N class. So this is what you can do, right? So here you will be having 4 lines like for M, N, something like this. Because this line will call what now? If I'm calling object.display, and already your read is having the display function, then there is no confusion, right? Then there is no confusion. It will directly call display of your child class, which is P. Okay, then there is no problem. And from that display, I am calling the other function, which is of class M and N. Visibility is by default private, so I need to make it public, which I forgot. Okay. Fine. Okay, so you are getting that class M N, class M N, because I have written this 2 lines over here and the same lines over here via the object. Okay. Clear this thing? How we can solve this ambiguity? Either you have to write like this in integer main, or if you wish to write like this only, then you have to write this kind of statements in your class. Then, so the same thing, the
Clear.
same kind of ambiguity. Yes, okay, great. The same kind of ambiguity you will be having even in your single inheritance. It is not like that you are facing the same problem in the multiple inheritance, right? Even in single inheritance, you are having the same kind of problem. We'll see this. See, here I'm having one class A. In this public section, I'm having one method, void display, which will simply print this is class A, right? Nothing extraordinary I'm doing. Here is class B, which is from class A. Class B is also having its own method, which is void display. And here they will print B. Now, class B is the child class who will be having all the properties of its parent class. So here class B is having its own display method, plus he is having the display method of class A, which is there from his parent. It is having 2 display methods, same name, right? So whenever I'll always create the object of which class? Child class. Okay, so here I'm having the object of child class means class B, and whenever I'll write object dot display, it will always call the display method of your child class. Means always B will be printed. Yes or no? Okay, every time, because see, the same name would be there, then your subclass will always hide the name of your superclass. Means if you are having the same name, right, but then you have to check you have created the object of which class? B. So it will first give the priority to their class only, no? Means B class. So it will always call this display. So whenever I am writing object.display, they will always call the display function of its own class, not its parent class. So if I want to do that, then what I need to do? I have to clear that object dot and then a scope resolution operator and then display. Then and only then it will display the function display of the class A. And you can even be more specific like this. You can even write B and scope resolution operator and like this. But this, I mean syntax and this, their meaning is same, right? You can write either like this or like this. Both will have the same output. You can check it via this, right? B, A and B. This is what the output. Getting this thing? Because I'm having object.display, it will call B class display. Then I'm specifying A class display, so they will call A class display, and then again B class display. Fine. So here the ambiguity resolution and inheritance, and we are talking about still this multiple inheritance, right? So the same thing that what I've written in the code blocks, that I've asked that ambiguity display of M or N. Whenever the compiler will get confused, it will directly raise an error, right? So the ambiguity may also rise in your single inheritance applications for the instance. Say suppose this is the example. That what we have seen, right? Fine. So that's all from for today. Any doubt in this? If you have, we can solve. Fine, good. Inherit is very easy than these operator overloading and all. I mean, the hardest topic, the toughest topic you can say, that was the conversion of one class to another class and something like that. After that, nothing is so tough. Fine. Again, it would be so easy things, right? Okay, that's great. Fine. So anything from your side? No, fine. Okay, then just write down your enrollment number. That's all from my side.